the windows, open them again, cut it on.
Boo.
That's a true story.
Boo, boo, boo. Okay, now it did join, so
Mayor Pro
it
Tem.
says leave, so I can't,
I'm in.
it can't say leave unless I've joined, right?
Yeah,
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Community Development, Housing, General Government Committee meeting. I apologize. Like I said, we have a very long agenda, and we up here trying to figure stuff out now as the meeting is starting. But I have, again, like I said before, I thank everyone for being here today. But when your item comes up and I allow you, once staff does their presentation, to speak, I just want you to be aware and be mindful of the time. Again, the agenda is long, and if I feel the need to help you speed it up, I will. And if I feel the need to cut you off, I'll do that too, but don't charge it to the heart, charge it to the fact that there's a watch, okay? All right, thank you so much. On the items, as you know, we have a consent agenda. And we have 10 items on consent, and we have 17 on the general agenda item. It's common practice for us to go with the consent items first. Are there any consent items that council, committee, or council would like to pull for discussion? And don't get happy with it. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead.
Can you just get us on the agenda?
Councilmember Scipio, C5. Councilmember Burke.
C4.
C4? Are there any others? If not, may I have a motion to accept the balance of the consent agenda? And this is a hand vote.
Move approval.
Second.
It has been moved by Councilmember Clark and seconded by Councilmember Scipio. All those in favor of the balance of the consent agenda? Are you raising your hand?
Oh, no, say aye. I'm jumping ahead of you, sorry.
All of those in favor, let it be known by raising your hands. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Thank you, and the motion passes. City Clerk?
If my thing's not working right, so I'll have to vote by hand signal on everything. Thank you.
And this is good. Thank you. City Clerk, would you please call the first item, please?
Item C4, resolution authorizing support of the Winston-Salem Foundation engaging the community to establish a housing trust fund to address the affordable housing needs in Winston-Salem.
Councilmember Burke, what is your question?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Hello, Ms. Skillman. I would like to ask about the resolution, the one-page resolution, and the last paragraph of that resolution. If you could just explain that last paragraph for clarification. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think I submitted, I'm hoping that it made it to you, the last paragraph. I changed that to just confirm this council. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry about that, jumping in. Just to confirm this council's support of staff's recommendation at the Committee of the Whole, and that's essentially that the Winston-Salem Foundation will engage the community, work with community stakeholders, as determine what the criteria will be, and do the capital raise the capital for the project, for the fund.
Thank you. I think that's clear. But just to make sure, so their efforts will be separate and apart from city council funding for affordable housing and the other funding, housing money that comes to the city.
That's correct, unless this council later on decides that the city will contribute to the fund.
Thank you, Ms. Skillman.
Thank you.
May I? Do you have a question? Yeah, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilmember Mundy, seconded by Councilmember Clark. All of those in favor, please vote with your hand. Attorney Carmen.
I just wanted to make sure everybody hits a refresh on the agenda, and that should show the updated resolution, which only has one now, therefore be it resolved clause. And I apologize for my voice.
Thank you. And the city clerk did send that email out this afternoon, early this morning, I think about 11 or something, to refresh your agendas on your laptop. And the motion passes. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item C5, resolution approving modifications to lending guidelines for single-family rehabilitation and the Transformation Urban Residential Neighborhoods TURN program.
Councilmember Scipio, what is your question?
I just had a couple of questions of clarification. The applications will be once a year, or is it 6 months?
So it'll be once a year for TURN applications. For emergency repair, hazard reduction, and physical disability, we will accept those year-round, but only for TURN, and that is to give staff the appropriate amount of time to process those applications and take care of the applicants that we have in that pool.
And are those applications for investors and for owner-occupied?
That is correct.
Okay. And are the applications online, or are they paper, or are they both?
We will be doing both. We will be hosting a series of community meetings in the TURN locations as well. We will have applications on site at the recreation centers, and we will also have them on a website so people can fill them out there as well.
And my last question, will emergency loans be fast-tracked?
Yes, ma'am. We will be taking care of those immediately. Because they are emergencies, we will take care of them.
And that's a difference than what we have been doing.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you. Those are my questions.
Any other comments? Councilmember Larson.
What are we doing with backlog of applications that are currently in the file?
Yep. So some of the
They have to be resubmitted, or are they going to be allowed to still be in the?
So some of the applications that we did receive for this, we've sent them to the counties so they can they can start on some of those homes. We do have a remainder of around 5 homes. We've contacted those that are interested, that we have, that are remaining, and we are working with them to get their information updated. Because income changes over the course of time, they will need to do income verification again.
Okay, so what is the date for the applications now?
We're looking to hopefully start this by June 1st. And it'll be, the application cycle for TURN will be open from June 1 until the end of June. So it'll be a 1 month.
June. That'll be implemented this year?
Yes, sir, this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hunter, I apologize. Could you say your name and what your job is, whatever, to the public?
Yeah, apologies. Samuel Hunter, Assistant Neighborhood Services Director.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
I move for approval of C5.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilmember Scipio and Councilmember Clark. You may vote when the screen comes up. All those in favor, please vote yes. All those opposed, vote no. And the motion passes. Thank you. Would the city clerk go ahead and let's go to the general agenda. Call the first item, please.
Item G1, 5020 Rushland Drive, West Ward, ordinance ordering the demolition and removal of a structure.
Mr. Hunter.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee and council. I'm Samuel Hunter, Assistant Neighborhood Services Director. This item is for 5020 Rushland Drive. We brought this back to you in February, and we're bringing it back to you now. The owner, and you can see it here on this, the owner of this did address some of the concerns that were originally cited, but there's still one minimum housing code issue that has not been resolved, and that is for the fascia and soffit and gutter of that home. You can see in these photos here that around the soffit and the fascia and the gutter, it has not been repaired. So therefore, that's why we are bringing it back to you today. These items are from last Thursday as well. These photographs, they're from last Thursday, so they are very recent.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark, Councilmember the Ward.
Is the owner here? I thought she was. Can you come up, please? If you'll give your name and address for the record, please.
Michelle Carley.
Do you have any comments? I actually drove by and looked at this house after the last meeting, and these pictures I'm looking at are current as of a day or two ago. Would you like more time to fix it up?
Yes, because that was not what was on the letter, so I didn't address that. But I just recently retired, and now I have the funds to work on it. So if I could get more time, that would be great, because I didn't know I was supposed to fix those, actually.
Okay. Mr. Hunter, is that the only item left on the list? The gutter and fascia issue?
Yes, sir. That is correct. That is the only item, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That is the only item left on the list. From this meeting date, she does have 90 days to bring it in compliance if there's an action on this item.
Okay. Madam Chair, I would recommend what's this, is April, May, June? Put it on the June agenda. That's 60 days. Will that give you enough time?
I can try. I have a contractor who helps me, and he's pretty busy, so I'll try to get it done.
How much time would you like?
Well, can I have till the end of July? That would give me and him time to get it done.
I'll do that, but if it's not done by then, I'm gonna make a motion to demolish the house.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
If that's okay.
What is your pleasure, Councilmember?
That by the way, we do not meet in July. I make a motion that we defer action and move it to the August committee meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and probably seconded that item G1 be moved to the August committee meeting. Councilmember Monday.
Just for neighborhood services, if in fact there's a systemic problem or a deficiency in making sure that when you send out communication, everything is listed, just look into that to make sure that's not happening on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
Councilmember Monday, and no disrespect to you, I've been doing this for 14 years, almost 15, on this committee when it comes to demos and notifications and the certified mail and everything that we do. I'd say 75 to 80% of the people, when their houses or properties are getting ready to be demolished and they haven't done anything, they will come and they will say that they never received anything for us or something was wrong with our communication. And that's not usually the case because staff does an excellent job of trying to reach out, let people know this is the number you call. If you have a misunderstanding, we're here.
That is indeed why I said if.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much.
We do not meet in July, so
Okay.
we'll be back here in August.
Madam Chair, it looks like that meeting is August 12th for the Community Development
Yeah.
General Government.
August 12th,
At 4?
4 o'clock, same
Okay.
place. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Motion has been passed. Thank you. Next item, please, City Clerk. The next item, we're going to take 2 through 9, all in one vote. City Attorney, is that okay?
That's fine. I think Mr. Potlori said he was sending a representative here, so after Mr. Hunter makes his presentation, you may want to check to see if someone's here on the title.
Mr. Hunter.
Okay. Should I read off all the address, or can I go one by one?
Whatever your pleasure.
Okay. We'll start with the first one. So 111 Lakeview Drive, just some little background context. This is in Lakeview. So there are a series of these homes.
Lakeside.
Excuse me, Lakeside. There are a number of these homes that we've been working with the property owner to address the minimum housing issues. We've been in constant communication with them, trying to make sure the properties are being built back to code or brought back into code. And there's not enough progress that's been made. So that's why we're bringing you these items today. We do have some photos to show you of some of the structures.
These are the hearing.
Okay, so this is 111 and 113 Lakeview Boulevard. As you can see, the windows are busted.
Can we
You
get
wanna see
these
that
on our
screen?
screens?
It should be there soon.
So
It's on in the agenda, but
it's there.
I like to see what everybody else is looking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good?
They're there.
Sarah,
Okay.
thanks.
So these windows are busted out. There are a number of minimum housing code violations that have not been brought into compliance per the forbearance agreement. So that's 111 and 113 that have not been brought up to minimum housing code.
Okay.
Same thing in Lakeside, 211 and 213 Lakeview Boulevard. You can see the windows are still boarded up. There are some loose wiring. Some of the windows are busted out as well. 211 and 213 Lakeview Boulevard have not been brought back up to compliance. We saw that one. That's okay. This is 261, 263, 265, and 267 Harrington Circle, still in Lakeside. These homes were part of a fire. They have not been brought back into compliance. Therefore, we are bringing this forward for demolition. Do you all have any questions about any of these photos that you've seen?
I'm going to let the council member of the ward speak first. Councilmember Scipio and Councilmember Clark.
One of the things that sometimes our city is a little lax on is we give people a lot of time to do what's required. We also understand that the residents are oftentimes tagged and presumed to be trifling and uncaring. In this instance, it's the owners. These conditions have existed for many years, and the recourse that we have as the city is to have them tagged as demolition because they have broken our codes. This particular owner bought this property about 3 years ago. These conditions existed. Some have emerged, but we have to be serious. We have to be serious that we make sure that every resident in this city is living in decent housing. They're paying rent. Regardless of that rental rate, they deserve to have decent housing. And they should be in a neighborhood that they don't have to live among blight. This is blight at its worst. The buildings were burned. They still exist. The owners are still getting lots of money from rental. The thing that hurts me the most is this is a huge complex of apartments that could be transformed into good, affordable housing. That's not the case. We have worked with the owners to ask them to bring it up to compliance. At this time, my patience is at the end. This is what we can do, is submit it for demolition because it is not fit for human habitation. And the whole complex is looking pathetic. And so this is, I'm very much in favor, council members, of moving forward with these demolitions unless there's been a real show of salvaging on the part of the owners. And Attorney Carmen has been in contact with the owners, and so she could give us an update if she chooses on this.
Okay. Councilmember, I'm going to allow Councilmember Clark to.
I was just going to say the gray ones, not the yellow ones, but the one-story ones, the fire, just looking at the pictures, looks like the inside is burned out too. I can't imagine these being savable. And if the gentleman last time here was a gentleman that spoke, the owner, that he's going to have to tear them down anyway. There's just no way you could rehab something that's burned out in the inside too. So anyway, I support your efforts, Ms. Scipio.
Can I get a motion on the floor?
I move that we move forward with demolitions for.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Scipio, Councilmember Clark, Councilmember McIntosh, and then I'm going to allow the city attorney to weigh in after you, Councilmember, and then Councilmember Burke. McIntosh.
Oh, sorry. Missed batting order there. So this is a constant frustration that we have, is we have one tool in our toolbox, and that's tear down. In this case, that's warranted. But in a lot of other cases, we don't want to tear a house down when there's any possibility, reasonable possibility of it being turned back into affordable housing that can be happening. Is there any read that the legislature would give us any additional leeway on things that we can do to encourage owners of properties like these?
Attorney Carmen.
Not that I'm aware of, but I will say that usually the property owners, before it even gets to the demolition category, because this has probably been sitting here vacant for over a year and so forth, they have the opportunity to make the repairs, but they are choosing for whatever reason not to do it. In this particular case, a lot of these properties were the subject of a forbearance agreement that's a couple of years old, where they agreed to bring the properties, a whole list of them, into compliance within a certain time frame. And while some of them were brought into compliance, many of them were not. So the opportunity was provided. It's just the property owner, for whatever reason, decided not to. My last communication with Mr. Potlori, the property owner, at least one of the owners in the Patio Court Apartments LLC, indicated that he was going to have someone here to speak to these properties. I'm not sure if Ms. Hernandez is here or at the appropriate time. Madam Chair, if you want to call to see if someone's here. But that time frame was afforded to that property owner. For whatever reason, he or she chose not to. But I'm not aware of anything on the horizon in terms of the General Assembly.
Thank you.
I'm going to have Councilmember Burke, and then we'll make one last call if anyone is here. Councilmember Burke.
Thank you. I just want to echo everything that Councilmember Scipio said. I'm in total agreement. This area of New Walkertown Road is right across the street from my ward, the Northeast Ward. This is a heavily traveled area. I travel back and forth this area every day to go to and from home. It is unsightly. It has been unkept, unmaintained for years. It represents blight and unsafe housing. It's not decent. And something needs to be done, should have been done a long time ago. It's a huge complex, and if you're driving from New Walkertown Road up or down, it spans at least a half mile of blight to look at. And it extends from New Walkertown Road all the way back to Winston Lake. Something needs to be done, and I'm in support. I'm not on this committee, but I'm in support of this. Thank you.
One last call for any individuals here for the Lakeview and Harrington Circle properties. Is anyone here? Okay. Councilmember Mundy?
I have a question. I agree with everyone. I want these to go away, but do we recoup these costs for demolition, or do we add them to an existing tax bill? Because to Mr. Clark's point, we are in fact doing a free job for this owner so that he can come in and reconstruct without having to bear the cost of demolition.
Attorney Carmen.
The demolition lien, once it is confirmed by City Council, and you may recall the confirmation process in the past for demolition liens, once it's confirmed, it becomes a lien on the property such that if the property is ever sold or whatever, it will have to be paid off. We do have a process by which, with the tax office, I think we still do, that these liens are also sought after when there's a foreclosure action. But again, this is not necessarily, right now, doesn't appear to be a high priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick.
Councilmember McIntosh.
So if we go in and we demolish these and put a lien on the property, and the property owner comes back in and rebuilds on that spot and doesn't sell, we're in effect doing an interest-free loan to him or a loan to him.
Well, we always have the option of foreclosing on that lien, though. Mm-hmm. So in theory, you could foreclose on the lien and get the money back during the foreclosure process. But if you don't do that, then I guess arguably, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion. I think it's already voted. We voted, that motion passed to go ahead forward with demolition.
Just to be clear, Madam Chair, and that's for C2 through C9.
That's correct.
G.
I'm sorry, G2 through G9.
G9.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. The motion passes. Next item, please, City Clerk.
Item G10, resolution authorizing permanent financing for development of 60 units of affordable rental housing for families known as Poplar Forest at Old Vineyard, located in the Southwest Ward.
Ms. Skillman.
Good afternoon. Tanya Skillman, Assistant Housing Development Director. Poplar Development is seeking gap financing in the form of a $2 million home loan to support their proposed project in the Southwest Ward for an application of 2024 low-income housing tax credits. The site is located at 4118 Old Vineyard Road. The project is 60 units with rents ranging for one bedrooms, $393 to $1,158. $465 to $1,382 for the two-bedroom, and $1595 for the three-bedroom. The total cost for the development of the project is $20.1 million. The city's award is contingent on the developer receiving a 2024 allocation of low-income housing tax credits and equity closing. It will be subject to the city's affordability period as defined under the Housing Justice Act. I believe the developer is also here if the committee has any questions.
Councilmember Clark.
I have a question that's on, I think there's three of these on here.
It's more than
They're all dependent upon
North Carolina.
us getting the
The housing.
community development block grants each year.
Well, there's $2 million now that we have available.
We're getting ready to spend $6 million. So my point is, we're kind of like in airlines here. We're getting ready to overbook, assuming that of the three people that got a ticket, only one's going to show up at most. So somehow I just think that needs to be recognized that, and by the way, this isn't anything new. We vote on these things, and I don't know what the percent is, but most of the time they don't get the financing.
Okay.
Good luck and all that, but that's just life. But I think we need to have something in the resolution that says dependent upon. Mr. Attorney, do you have
But it
any
is.
wording you'd recommend?
There is actually,
It's in there.
after you and I spoke before committee, there is actually in the Exhibit A, a sentence that says permanent loan, subordinate permanent mortgage financing in an amount, the one I pulled says not to exceed $2 million to be derived from home investment partnership funds, subject to determination of final costs and continued availability of home funds through project completion. But we certainly can add some additional language to make it clear that it's contingent upon the receipt of funds and further appropriation by council.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice. And
But isn't that already
It's in the resolution.
listed on page 2 at the end of where it says the resolution provide $2 million subordinate loan for the project, the proposed fund source is home funds. This commitment is contingent upon an award of 2024 low-income housing tax credits, attainment of all other sources of financing, availability of city funds, and completion of construction in compliance with the provisions of the attached Exhibit A.
I think he's wanting to see it in the resolution, which is fine, it doesn't hurt.
just be sure it's in the resolution.
Okay, everybody?
It's in the
Need
resolution.
to be recognized. Councilmember Scipio.
It is in the resolution. It says, subject to award of 2024 low-income housing tax credits from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and the conditions contained in Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. So it is in the resolution.
My concerns, city attorney, city manager, again, goes back to what I've been saying all along. We bring these projects here. I know staff does a great job, but the only time we see it is when it's on an agenda or at a committee meeting a month ago. But at the end of the day, there is the matrix that we ask for to show us when we're doing this work. It's got to be a place where we see where this is taking away from this money, wherever it is. And to Councilmember Clark's point, I don't know where we have this money at. And I mean, we got all these people coming asking for money, and right now the piggy bank is dry. City manager, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor Pro Tem, that's exactly right. There's most of the funds that we have been allocated. If all three of these were by chance to be awarded, that would be a $4.4 million commitment, which we do not have in home funds at this time.
Thank you. Attorney Carbon.
Going back to Councilmember Clark's point, you're correct, Councilmember Scipio, but the condition it refers to the award of 2024 low-income housing tax credits from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. I think what Mr. Clark is referring to is the award of actual home funds. Now, I did mention that there is in the Exhibit A that language, but if you all would prefer to see it in writing, so you can read it in the resolution, we'll be happy to drop it in there as well.
Councilmember Clark.
To reiterate my point, we're selling the same seat on the airplane 3 times, assuming only one will show up at most. So it's not just the awarding from home, it's the fact that you got to get here first.
Yeah.
While supplies last.
While supplies last.
We'll work on it.
I'm supportive of all the motions, but everybody needs to understand.
I feel.
I like my analogy, and I think there needs to be some
feel-
wording in there.
I feel you, Councilmember Clark, in that it goes back to, just like what we've done with Turn, that there is an application process, there is an opening window when you can apply, just like we know that we all have these things that we do that tells you between this time and this time, you can apply. I don't think we have this with this. I think we should have put this in place a couple of years ago when we finally decided that we were going to do housing or do more. And right now, Mr. Pate, I'd like to see us with something like that, city attorney as well, that the public doesn't know what we know. And for all intended purposes, the people that come and then we get the projects, you know, it could be said that we are not wanting to build houses, which is not true. We just don't have all of the money that people think we have. And if there is a process of when people can file, just like the North Carolina housing tax credits, they have a window. And I think we're at a point now we need a window because we basically are out of money, except for the money that's going to come from the feds, if that happens. What do you think?
Madam Chairwoman, my sense is you got 2 parts of here. You're right, council has not seen this before. You've got 3 different LIHTC projects in front of you. I would suggest that you hear from the developers if they're here on all 3. You could forward them without recommendation. And then if council wants us to go back in and provide some priority based on council's desire in the housing program, we can come back with that before they go to your regular agenda for a final vote.
The developer for this project, Poplar Forest, could you come forward, please? Councilmember McIntosh, as he makes his way to the podium.
So do we have a method, let's say we have a 3-way tie? How do we break that vote? How do we break that tie? What we don't know is what staff, because we're not in these meetings with staff, what we don't know is what staff is telling to developers about projects, whether developers are aware of the fact that if we get into a 3-way tie, we don't have a way to break it. In a capital-intensive business like this, surprises are not welcome. And so getting close to the finish line and then being told we're going to toss a coin, doesn't do us well in our efforts to build housing.
Absolutely.
So, and again, that's occurring at staff level, and we don't hear those conversations, so I'm curious as to what a developer is hearing from us.
State your name and address, please.
Brian Hollander. I'm the managing partner for Poplar Development Group, and I'm at 600 Park Offices Drive in Durham, North Carolina.
You want to talk about your project for a couple of minutes?
I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and certainly appreciate your consideration. I want to make sure that I give time to answer the specific question, though. because I could talk all day long about the project itself. But staff's done a great job of explaining that the home funds are limited. And I believe it's Mr. Clark's analogy to an airplane. And I think that what I understand is that North Carolina Housing Finance Agency will select who gets the ticket to get on the plane. And so I haven't been concerned about the fact that the home funds are really only functionally available for 1 or 2 deals, because fundamentally there's not going to be more than 1 or 2 deals based on the mathematics of how many credits are available at the state level. That there won't be more projects selected than there are dollars available here. Mm-hmm. If you want more detail on that, I'm happy to discuss it.
Councilman Mundy, do you have a comment? This is in your ward.
Just 2 comments, or one is a question. Is this the same tax credit that the folks who are doing the flats at Peters Creek had to wait for?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the case. That was explained to me, that it's a golden ring, and it's not given to many.
If that project was applying for 9% competitive credits with North Carolina Housing Finance, and it's the same.
The only other thing
the rules do change at the margin from year to year.
The only other thing I was going to mention, I remember when this came up for rezoning, there were several individual homes there. This is the first I've heard about it. It's in the Southwest Ward, so I'd really like a little bit of advance notice or just a discussion so that when I come to the meetings, I know something's happening in the Southwest Ward.
Understood. It was our mistake. We didn't understand that this was going to be the committee meeting where we would be discussing the project. Our intent was to get in touch with you before the next meeting, but we accelerated our timeline to meet the needs of both staff and North Carolina Housing. But
I understand.
We will certainly be in touch.
And it's by no means, a requirement, but it is very nice to know in advance. Thank you.
Understood, sir.
Thank you so much.
Certainly, we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Going back to what Councilmember Clark, and I think a lot of us, we feel like city attorney, that if it's in the language, like these projects are on here as resolutions, they're on the general agenda. Each of these projects, and not to supersede the others, for this one, because if we can vote on it, as Councilmember Clark said, but it needs to be understood that there's a whole lot of other things that have to take place for us to ante up any money at all. Is that correct?
That's correct. We can work on the resolution.
Okay. Councilmember Scipio.
The problem I have is a problem that Mr. Clark has brought up. I don't think it's right for us to give any hope that we're going to give 3 people $2 million each and we don't have the money. I don't think you promise what you can't deliver. Why not give them what we have and know that if we're out of money, we're out. We can't help. But if all 3 do get the credits, then we're on the hook. And that doesn't seem to be the right thing to do financially.
The language that will be added will basically say contingent upon the receipt of home funds and contingent upon further appropriation by city council. Because, if council doesn't have the money, then you can't provide what you don't have. So the language will be tweaked with that understanding. It sounds like the developers have pretty much been told that and understand the likelihood of 1, maybe 2 projects being approved, so it's not necessarily 4.4 million, but I'll be happy to let staff address that.
But what we'll be adding again is the fact that it'll be contingent upon us voting on which projects that we want to support. Is that not correct?
No, essentially, it'll be contingent upon whether or not they get the approval at the state level and you all get the funding necessary to make that appropriation.
Correct, but still at the end of the day, it's about us voting on it, because if they get the tax credits and they get the home, let's say all 3 get it, at the end of the day, was it not be up to us to decide which project that we want to support?
Not the way the resolution is written.
again, we may have to go back and tweak this language because, again, at the end of the day, if we don't get the final say, I understand staff is doing their job, but at the end of the day, it's us that decides which project probably will get funded if all of them get funded by the tax credits and the home funds or the money, right?
I think the way it's written, if they get that approval and you all get the funding and then come back and appropriate that funding, then all three will, in essence, be approved.
Absolutely. Councilman McIntosh.
Every year in Forsyth County, there are probably 10 projects that score 100 on the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency scorecard, and developers know that one or two of those are going to be chosen. So the question to me is, if two of them are chosen, can we fund both? If three of them are chosen, if some long shot happens and three of them are chosen, how do we deal with that?
Again, essentially, it would be dependent upon whether or not you all have the funds and make the appropriation out of the home funds for the projects. So in my mind, it'll have to, even if they all three get approved, you all still have to come back and officially appropriate the funds.
As long as developers are aware of that dance,
Yeah.
then I'm okay.
Now, I don't know what staff has said to developers, and maybe staff here can.
Sounds like they've done a good job.
And that's what I'm saying. They've done a good job. We got to believe that. And you've heard me say this over and over again.
We're going to get an answer to that question here.
Okay. Are you wanting to weigh in again?
I was anticipating y'all asking a question, so I was just making it easier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, we done.
Did you need Ms. Skillman to affirm or confirm that?
What?
Madam Chair.
Oh, I had to look for you. Go
I
ahead.
know, it's tough being over here in the corner out of the way. Nobody can see what's going on. I will say in our resolutions, the one caveat in there, it does say for all three of those projects, the council will make an award up to an amount. So I think that does, ultimately, once home funds come in, whatever we get, council still has to appropriate those funds. So at this point in time, I think you're being abundantly clear to the development community that something happens, if you like all three of these projects and you agree to support pushing them forward and they all three win, then you will still only be appropriating funds based on what you have available in home funds. And so as long as they're aware of that, then I think as Councilman noted, then everybody should be on the same page.
Okay. All right. Could I get a motion on the floor?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and probably seconded by Councilmember Clark and Councilmember Mundy. All those in favor, please let it be known by voting yes. All those opposed, please vote no. And the motion passes. City Clerk, next item, please.
Item G11, resolution authorizing permanent financing for development of 60 units of affordable rental housing for families known as Zachary Point Apartments located in the South Ward.
Ms. Stillman.
Good afternoon. Wallach Asset Management seeks a $2 million home loan as gap financing for its 60 units in the South Ward. The proposed project is located on Stratford Village. The rents it's a family project with the rents ranging for the one bedrooms $395 to $755. The two bedrooms are $470 to $888, and the three bedrooms are $540 to $1017. The total development cost for the project is estimated to be $16 million. Again, the award is contingent upon allocation of 2024 low-income housing tax credits and equity closing of the project, and will be subject to the Housing Justice Act.
Any comments or questions from the committee or council?
Move approval.
May I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Clark, you have a comment?
An observation, if I could.
Okay, go ahead. Councilmember Larson.
This really applies to all three applications, and I notice this may be directed to staff more than the developers, but we're getting ready to build 100 and some 80 units, and I haven't seen an elevation on any of those units. It's going to have a visual impact, obviously, on the communities that they're implanted in. I see floor plans, but we didn't get copies of the elevations, and I'd like to see that, if I could, in the next,
Yes, sir.
maybe before it comes forth full council.
Absolutely. We can provide those.
Thank you, Councilmember Larson. The motion, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item, please, City Clerk, item G12.
Item G12, resolution authorizing permanent financing for development of 60 units of affordable rental housing for families known as Sage Point Apartments, located in the North Ward.
Greenway Residential Development seeks $400,000 of home funds as a home loan for gap financing for its 60 units in the North Ward. The total development cost for this project is estimated to be $14.6 million. The proposed family project has the ranges for the rents, is $544 to $850 for the one-bedroom, $655 to $1,022 for the two-bedroom, and $760 to $1,184 for the three-bedroom. And it is also contingent on award of 2024 low-income housing tax credits and equity closing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councilmember Monday.
These three proposals look and sound very similar. Is it three different developers?
Yes.
Yeah.
And are these developers known entities? Have we done business with them before? Have they gotten loans from us before?
Not that I'm aware of, no. They're new. But they're experienced developers in low-income housing and affordable housing.
Okay, thank you.
Development.
Councilmember Scipio.
Ms. Gilman, it would be great if you would put those rentals in the CARF so we could sort of look at them each.
The rents?
The rents
Absolutely.
that you speak to.
Certainly.
My only observation is all three of these are for 60 units. And one, the total, the construction cost for the project is different for all of them. And I would be interested to find out what's the real difference in the units that are being constructed and why are the costs ranging from 14 million. I think the first one was around 20 or 30 million.
And typically that's how they intend to build. And I can if you have a specific question about how they got to the 20 million, I can certainly ask the developer to come up and speak to that.
I'm just more curious about why two of them are 2 million and this one's 400,000 for the same number of units. But that's just for me, my learning.
I could answer it. It's typically an estimate, so their builders will estimate based on their elevations how much they'll cost. Some developers have better relationships or connections to be able to access particular materials or whatever they determine is the development plan.
It's called the cost of doing business.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Land costs can play into it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Land costs. Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Councilmember Larson.
Can I be clear on this? So these are loans?
Yes, sir.
Is.
And what are the payback requirements on these? Are they forgivable loans?
It's to be determined, and we're waiting on the developer to, whichever project is awarded, we want to work with the developer, but typically it's, 20 to 30 year loan. Home requires 20, but I think oftentimes developers would like to see that term a little bit longer. And I think we're looking at least 1% interest rate.
So does this go back into a pool for reinvestment for the city, or where does that, when that money is paid back in, where does it go?
Yes.
Guess what?
It goes back into the pot for affordable housing.
For
That's
affordable
correct.
housing. And do we have anything in that pot right now that's from the previous loans? There's some.
There's some program income, and it goes into the Housing Assistance Fund, is that
Probably
correct?
not 2 million.
Housing Finance Assistance Fund.
Well, I think that's important to monitor that return money, because it's going to be recycled into more affordable housing as a source of income that we need to have.
And that's the whole point. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I know that, 20 years, I hope I'm retired, but. But yes, it will be recycled for the next staff.
I think, can I get a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Scipio. Can be prepared to vote. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, yes. All those opposed, vote no. Thank you, and the motion passes. Mr. Pate, I really believe, again, we have got to get some structure, some organizational structure to this process. I mean, we're squeaking by now, but again, even when it comes to where the money goes or where it comes from, the mortgages, the forgivables, how the data that shows how many have been paid back, how many have been forgiven over the course of, let's say, 15, 20 years or anything like that. I think it would be very helpful for the council. Again, that's part of that education piece, and we won't talk about my housing summit. But anyway, Councilmember Monday.
In that same vein, in the past, we've approved zoning, we've approved loans to projects that never came to fruition, but we don't know that they didn't come to fruition, because I believe one of these is on the same spot that we were supposed to do with senior housing. So that just goes into the argument that we don't always know what's going on, what does move forward and what doesn't.
And hopefully, once we get past some of this, as we move forward, that we're going to be able to do that. We got to do it, because if not, we're just going to keep treading water. That's all. The motion carried. Could I have the next item, please, City Clerk?
Item G13, resolution revising the number of affordable units required to be constructed by Infill Delegate LLC at the Old Commons of Forsyth County property, known now as The Heights, from 22 units to 21 units, located in the Northeast Ward.
Mr. Hunter.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee. I'm Samuel Hunter, Assistant Neighborhood Services Director. This item, it was brought back to you in November 14, 2022, and there was two resolutions authorizing, one, the subordinate of a permanent loan of $400,000 at this site, and then the second resolution authorized the use of a loan for $290,000 to Infill Delegate LLC to construct 22 new units on this property. I do have Bryce Shearburn here to speak on the amending of the number of units that will be at this site. So I'm going to turn it over to him to brief you.
Mr. Shearburn, please state your name and your address.
Bryce Shearburn, 328 South Green Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of the committee. And just as a technical clarification, in the process of putting the CARF together from that Lawson's out of town, there was a miscommunication with respect to the number. What we're asking for is retaining the same number of units. We originally submitted in November 2021 for 21 units. We were approved in November 2022 for 22 units. The unit count remains the same. Where those units are located on the property is what's different. The original approval was to convert the single-room occupancy building from 20 units into 10. When we got into the adaptive reuse, we were able to get 11. On the other hand, on the Joy Way side, where we were dealing with two existing buildings and we were constructing additional new construction units, talk about unintended consequences. Because we availed ourselves of ARPA funding, under the rules of engagement, we were required to design the detention and storm retention ponds to state standards, which required a detention basin 3 times larger than that required by Forsyth County regulations, which occasioned a reduction in 1 unit on that side. So what we have is the same number of units. They're just in different places. And I would also like to report happily that we are completed with the former SRO, now rebranded Ginkgo Flats. And in those 11 units, we have 5 occupied. The rent rates for those units, because this was a project which can be identified as naturally occurring affordable housing. It takes advantage of various value in place elements. So our rent rates for these properties range from $975 to $1,100, including utilities. Because the way the building was constructed, we are including water, gas, electric, and Wi-Fi. Those utilities in the aggregate account for approximately $210 per month of our rents. So the result is that we have freshly renovated modern units with rent rates on a net basis that range anywhere from $681 to just a scooch over $1,000. These rent rates compare or are applicable to an AMI range that all of the folks, and certainly this applies to those that are in possession, all of those folks are in income tranches of less than 80%, 3 of them 60% or less. So we are pleased to report that we are able to, we think, provide a significantly higher number of units available for those income tranches that are in the most need. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sherburne. Councilmember Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So a couple of questions. The first question, can you tell us the difference as far as square footage for the SRO housing that you have subtracted one from in comparison to the Joyway housing?
We've added to the SRO, Councilmember Burke.
One more.
10 to 11. Those units are micro units. As you know, the SRO is a single-room occupancy building, so it consisted of a bedroom and a bathroom. Our renovation and redevelopment plan basically connected 2 units. We eliminated the bathroom in one and replaced it with a modern European-style kitchen. The unit sizes range in square footage from about 290 to about 390 square feet. The thing that we're finding, and it's very interesting, is you look at the landscape of apartment sizes, and we all have seen them be reduced. I think if we look at the last 4 permitted Texas Donuts, the studios in those units, when they built Weston Station as an example, were about 625 square feet. Easily, those studios are now below 600 square feet. The link on 4th Street, those studios are pushing below near to 500 square feet, and they're a one room. Biggest single advantage and market reception of the Ginkgo Flats is that there are 2 separate rooms. So these rooms are designed to take advantage of, for instance, the kitchen. And I'll be happy to provide additional details, but we used a European-style kitchen. So we have an 18-inch dishwasher instead of a 24-inch. We have an air fryer that's built into the induction cooktop. The cabinetry is done in a very European manner. That is to say, it's much more efficient than we found typically here. So we're finding a product that's being well received in the market because of its ability to have 2 separate spaces to camp out. You can sit and enjoy your breakfast without looking at your bed.
Okay, you gave additional information, and I'm totally confused, so I'm going to go back to my question. So for the SRO, single resident occupancy, we increased by 1, and the square footage is 390.
They range. Councilmember Burke, the square footages range from about 300 to 390. I think there's one that's a little over 400.
And so compared to that of Joyway, where we decreased the number.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the square footage there?
Footage there, that's a completely different product. Those are designed as cottage duplexes.
Yes.
1-bedrooms are 576 square feet. They feature 9-foot ceilings. They feature shed roofs and an open landscape plan. The 2- and 3-bedrooms, of which we have 1 2-bedroom and 2 3-bedrooms, those are 1,172 square feet. The 2 existing houses, one was a scooch under 1,200 square feet, and the larger one, and this is an interesting market point, the larger house was a 6-bedroom house. And what we found when we began our pre-marketing and discussions with our partners at the Housing Authority, the other definitive need in terms of affordable housing is larger houses with more bedrooms. So we have, and hopefully we'll be welcoming, a choice voucher tenant to that large single-family residence on the Joyway campus.
So for the Joyway campus, where we did lose one, what size was that?
576 square feet?
That was the size of what we lost?
Correct.
Okay, and that would be a one-bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so we're reducing, are we going to, and I guess this is a question for your committee, Mayor Pro Tem, are we going to decrease the funding for this project since what we were initially going to receive has been reduced?
I don't, city attorney or Mr. Hunter, if they gotta put the stormwater pond there.
A larger one.
A larger one. That's fed state government, we don't. So what they're doing is basically they just moved the unit. But for me, I don't know about the rest of the committee, I won't be requesting any decrease in the funding. Councilmember McIntosh, did I see your hand?
Yeah, no, on all these other cases that we've heard today, we haven't inquired a single time about square footage of units. I can't remember asking any developers what the square footage of their unit, tying our funding to a square footage requirement.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Larson, did you have a question? No? Any others? Councilmember Monday?
Mr. Shearburn, you and I have talked in the past about other projects, and I just don't recall for this one. I know a lot of your other projects, you're doing energy efficient, you're taking advantage of government tax credits for doing that. Is that the plan with all of these constructions as well?
Well, in this day and age, all of our development processes necessarily include sustainable elements. I mean, Leeds used to be an outlier, and now it's Main Street. So, yes, the short answer is yes. Not to the extent that some of the other projects we've discussed, which would have, adaptive reuse projects have more focused emoluments, if you will, on the tax credit side. Since this was new construction on Joyway, there were no tax credits, but we do provide for the appropriate energy envelopes. We look at appliance and SEER ratings, and we do provide what we believe is a sustainable.
This is a thought for council and for staff. I don't think right now we make any distinction between those that are energy efficient and those that aren't when we're making awards. And I think that's something we should take into consideration. I don't know exactly how that would look, but I think it's something that we need to reward and make it, if we're judging, trying to pick the best out of three, it's a criteria that should be there.
And I've asked for that before. I just think maybe everybody, again, we have been doing this for so long, and when we make decisions or suggestions of how we want information to come to us, it's a hit or miss. And when we realize, like what you're saying, we talked about this in Public Works with our fleet, why we don't see things like that, a rating from our sustainability people, and just like with housing. Mr. Hunter, I appreciate you standing, and Mr. Shearburn and his comments, but we're going to move this puppy down the road. Can I get a vote, a motion on the floor?
Before we
Yes,
make
sir.
a motion, Attorney Carmen, do we need to amend what this reads as far as revising the number of units from 22 to 21? Do we need to say that it is amending the layout of the units?
I think you need to make sure the resolution reflects factually what is occurring. So if that is not correct, then it needs to be revised.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Madam Chair, do you want to just move it forward to council without a recommendation?
Yes, and the other thing that we would like to see again is we have at least some type of visuals of the other projects we've seen. And Mr. Shearburn, I know you brought that to us before, but every time it comes, it still needs to have some visual pictures for us to look at and review because if you've moved, the site has changed because of the stormwater pond, then an aerial view would have been great to look at to see, a color coordination of this was what this unit was, and now it's over here. So I'm requesting that be a part of the package for Monday night, okay?
We'll be happy to provide that. And of course, this time we can provide you with more than just pictures. We'll provide you with actual pictures of the finished Ginkgo flats. And by the time council looks at this, I think we're about 80% on Joy Way, so.
All right, thank you very much.
And include that
Councilmember
in the
Clark.
I'll move this forward without recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Scipio for this item G13 to be moved forward without recommendation. All those in favor vote yes, all those opposed vote no. And the motion passes. Thank you. Next item, please, City Clerk.
Item G14, presentation on development of 4 single-family homes on scattered city-owned lots located in the Southwest Ward.
Ms. Stillman.
Good afternoon. The Moravian Church requests to purchase 4 city-owned lots for $4 and an allocation of $160,000 of state ARPA funds in the form of a forgivable loan to support construction of 4 single-family homes for affordable home ownership. These are located on Sunset Boulevard in the Southwest Ward. The homes are 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a maximum sales price estimated to be $194,130. With the $40,000 subsidy, homes will be available for $154,130 and set aside for buyers earning up to 80% AMI. The loan funds will be provided to the developer during construction. As the houses are sold, the loans will be transferred as a down payment assistance loan to the homeowner. Homeowners will sign a secured 20-year down payment assistance loan equal to the appraised value less the sales price. A portion of the loans, in this case, $2,000, will be forgiven annually over the 20-year term. The balance of the loan must be repaid if the owners decide to sell before the term of the loan ends. In their original proposal, the Moravian Church requested to purchase 19 lots with a $760,000 state ARPA allocation. Staff recommends a more conservative approach for this initial collaboration and support to establish a relationship with the Moravian Church. Upon completion and sale of the initial 4, we can consider a proposal to purchase additional lots available.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. I'm going to defer, Councilmember Mundy. I would like for the Equitable Homeownership Project, those people that are here, could you send 1 or 2 up to speak about this? Because I've gotten your emails. I get emails from everybody when people not happy. So if you could please bring someone up to help even the public understand how monumental this is to even partner with the Moravian Church on a national level. Who's going to speak?
May I comment while they're coming up?
Councilmember Mundy.
I'm going to comment while you're coming up. When you look at all the boxes, this had all the boxes. I think we've established that we're loaning $2 million to 3 organizations that we don't have a relationship with. So that rationale really does not hold in this case.
Excuse me,
I'd like to hear more about the program. I'd like for others to hear about the program, but I know it well and it does what we need.
Thank you for this opportunity, Ms. Pro Tem. I'm Neil Ruth. I'm the president of the Moravian Church for the Southern Province, and I'm proud of this collaboration of community leaders who have come together for this idea. The Moravians came to this area and settled and named their village Salem, meaning peace. And throughout our history as the Moravian Church, especially for those of you who represent the eastern wards of the city, we have not had the best reputation for sticking to that idea of peace. We've collaborated at times for the things that actually don't represent the best interest of the people of the city. This is an opportunity to set that record in a better direction of peace. So we hope that the council will approve this opportunity. It starts with these 4 homes, but has the potential to be much bigger. I think my hope as a representative of the Moravian Church is it sets a witness of what happens when city leaders and community folk come together to make a difference. I'm going to defer my time to others who can explain more the technical process of this project.
Thank you. Mr. Montgomery, please give your name and address.
Derwin Montgomery, 2021 New Town Road, 27101. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee, members of the council who are present, this is, in my opinion, a big deal. In particular, when we look at what the opportunity is of the creation of housing and the partnership of the Equitable Housing Homeownership Project as a whole. proof of concept. The idea of being able to build and develop last year in 2023, and you all have a handout at your seat, and for others, something will be emailed to you. 2023 proof of concept was established that this group could build at a lower cost and price point to get individuals into affordable housing. Some folks have seen that prototype. Working with staff, the prototype has been changed, adding more quality of life elements and things that folks would like from an aesthetic standpoint to improve what it looks like. That project moved forward with looking at 19 sites across the city to be able to build on. And that's a big deal in multiple spaces because of the price point and the commitment here. The Moravian Church and all of the partners at the table have removed profit from it. Nobody's making money off of this deal. The fact is that it's all about getting individuals into a home at a low price point for a homeowner and first-time home buyers. What does that mean? That means that for the product that is being developed, the highest price point for sale is looking at $184,000. That means when you layer on the commitment from the city at $40,000, plus adding the addition from the county's commitment for the first-time home buyer of $25,000, you reduce by $65,000 that $184,000. Nobody else in this city is building anything allowing someone to walk into the door as a starter house in that $120,000 price point. Doesn't exist anymore. That is what this project is being able to bring to the table, and there are collaborative partners who are allowing that to come to fruition in this. We want to name and raise the fact that only recently has it come to fruition that the project will be potentially reduced from 19 to 4, and which suggests that as you look past some of the recent projects that you all have approved, there are new folks who you have approved projects more than 4 and more than the dollar amount that's being allocated in this project as well. And none of them meet the in-the-door price point that will be produced by this. In the room today, I think there are some great partners that help to make this come to fruition. Today, we also have in the room with us Michelle Mitchell, the Director of Mortgage Banking with Piedmont
Could you
Federal.
stand, please, if you're present?
Bianca Boykin-Green from Forsyth County. We have with us Reverend Willa Bass from IDR, Chris Dolan, Fine Line Homes, Chuck Spahn from Love Out Loud, Charlie Gardner, and Elaine Summerfield from Winston-Salem Foundation, Russ May from Anthony Potts, and myself. And there are others who are part of the community steering committee to shape this, because it wasn't just the Moravian Church. They were committed to making sure that there were community voices and impacted people who helped shape this program. So the opportunity to partner and excited for what this can look like moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman.
I wanted to comment, Councilmember Mundy, on what you mentioned. I think for staff, we recognize that it is a collaborative effort here presented. However, the Moravian Church has limited experience. And so even with the other projects we considered, those developers have been in business for a number of years, 20 plus, how many units? I'm certain we can bring them forward to tell us how many units they have developed. And so going into this conservatively for us allows the city, allows the Moravian Church, as Mr. Montgomery mentioned, proof of work, they can provide to us.
I understand.
Okay.
Where did this decision come from exactly to reduce it from 19 to 4? That's what I'm curious about.
That's what I'm curious about.
I mean,
that's what I'm.
Goes back to one single voice, and whose voice was that, please? Let's be truthful, Patrice.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the committee and council. So this project came to Tanya and I several months ago. We talked to Russ May. Great concept, idea. I definitely believe their intentions are great and great collaboration. Tanya and I went out to look at one of the models they have on the southeast side of the community. They made some tweaks to the aesthetic design because it's important that if the city supports affordable housing, this is something people are proud to be homeowners of. They've created design, they have tweaked it. This design is better aesthetically, but some of the new developers that we've had, probably in the Northeast Ward, we had, who who was it? Glybex and Liberty East redevelopment had never done work for us. So we started with only 4 parcels. We haven't gotten any new developers that has never done work for the city, the small work, to have more than 4 of our parcels.
So where did the decision come?
Yeah, we discussed this, and we set a precedent with the first 2 small developers. So, yes, we decided that from a staff perspective, the council can do anything they want to, not to let one developer have all the lots that is available to the city. Any developer or any small business would want to have 19 lots for $1. So this is a proof of concept. We're not saying no to all of them, and that is not our decision. It's just a staff recommendation to start with 4, as we've done with other developers.
I think in this case, the known entities, we know these are people who work every year on helping the poor, and they have a tremendous success rate. So to imply that it's not a known quantity is just not an acceptable decision to me.
Yeah, we don't make the decisions. We just brought it forward, and that's why you see it today on the agenda. We're bringing it forward.
I would like to amend that to provide them the funding for 19 lots as they originally had planned. This has the community engagement that we've asked for. Please get people involved in the community.
Yeah.
You saw the people involved in the community. We've asked for infill, which is difficult to do. That's what they're doing. We've asked for affordable. Everybody's talking about $250,000 as an affordable price point, and it's not. This is the first group that has brought us an affordable price point. So I think we deserve to take this tiny little risk with this group of people.
Thank you, Councilmember Monday. Any other comments? Councilmember Clark?
I've got all sorts of questions on this. First off, Mr. Mundy, I would never give 19 lots to someone who's never built a house.
They have built houses.
Sir, I have.
Excuse me. You know
The deal is, will the Moravian Church please provide me a list of homes the Moravian Church has built in this town in the last 10 years? I go to a very large church. I wouldn't trust us to build a house.
But that's your religion. That's your faith.
I don't have any trouble with a national builder coming in here who's built hundreds of houses, but I want to be sure that whoever builds this knows what they're doing. And I do think we made the right decision with the 2 developers over in Ms. Burke's ward, that I'm not sure they know what they're doing, but we'll find out. Got 4 houses. Number 2, we're not giving them $160,000. The lots have $100,000 tax value, so they're asking for $260,000 for 4 houses. They're also asking for, how much was the county offer? 30? 25, so that's another 100. We're looking at close to $100,000 between the city and the county, $100,000 subsidy per house. My question is, how do we determine who wins the lottery? We're talking about picking 4 families and giving them a $100,000 subsidy on a house. I just want to be sure we understand what we're doing, and I want to know how that's going to be determined before I make any decision on this.
And I hear you, Councilmember Clark. Thank you. Again, and City Attorney, I'm running out of time. Can I go another 30 minutes after my? I need to finish this agenda.
I was going to say, you can go as long as you feel necessary, but as far as my item, if you'll put me top at the next agenda, I'll wait. I think I have G17.
Yours is the technical corrections, right?
Right.
Okay. All right, we might get through. Councilmember Burke, and then I'm going to make a comment.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to say that the precedent was set in the Northeast Ward because the question has come up, where did this come from, selling only 4 lots at a time? It came up from being advised by Mr. King, and others as I sat and discussed working with builders to build affordable housing in the Northeast Ward. And it was great advice when I was told, let's only sell 4 lots at a time. Once these homes are built and once these homes are sold, then we will sell 4 more. If they do a good job, we'll bring them back and sell 4 more. And they all understood that this was the expectation. Now I want to go back to the fact that tomorrow we will be cutting the ribbon for Liberty East redevelopment for 4 homes that they will be building in the Northeast Ward. When I compare just the aesthetics, just the picture, the image that was shown, I can already tell you the main differences between the 4 homes in the Northeast Ward. All of them will have a garage. All of them will have a brick or stone facade. And all of them will receive city financing, and we're working with the county also, so there is the potential for almost or maybe $100,000 as a subsidy. All of these homes will be sold for no more than $231,118. So you do the math. You see how much will be asked of the homeowners to have financed. So the great deal is in the Northeast Ward, and I think that we need to stick with the precedent that has already been set, 4 lots at a time, sell them, get the residents in those homes, occupying those homes, and then you can let more go. I'm good in the Northeast Ward. I have plenty of builders, and they work with me because they know the kind of value that I want to add to that community. Thank you.
Thank you. What we have here is a failure to communicate. I love Cool Hand Luke, Mr. Pate. We have come to this impasse that I always knew we would get here, where we would begin to have some discussion and debate about what it is that we want and what we should be doing. Again, when we don't have in front of us, okay, if we're selling lots $1, and if we got now out, I don't even know how many lots we got out now allotted to people. We should, again, information, lots, where are they located? What are they building? You know, what is the price point? Because what we're getting everything in piecemeal to this council, then this is what you get, confusion. Not just disagreement, but confusion. So Councilmember Clark made a point.
I have another point, but you finish. Go ahead.
I'm the chair. Anyway.
I was just raising my hand.
Councilmember Mundy, I hear you. You know, but if we could understand these relationships that we are trying to make happen in our community that we've never had before. If we got builders, you know, now we're looking at builders' resumes and experience. We need to know that. Does this builder have any experience in our community? Have they built product in this community? We don't have any of that. And again, it's not like we're operating with like 100 years. We're operating on the past, I'll say 3 to 4 years, maybe 5, Councilmember McIntosh and Councilmember Clark, of builders that we have partnered with, collaborated with, given money to, incentive, whatever. We don't know if we're comparing apples to apples. Are we looking at every one that comes to us? And they're not all the same, but we're wanting to treat everybody the same. We need to be able to have more information to be able to do that. I think the precedents that we're setting, that we possibly set, Councilmember Burke, again, being with the council, we can change that, this group, at any point. But going forward from where we are right now, Councilman Clark, we don't have enough information. Everybody knows I am a supporter of building houses. I've been doing this for over 30 years, 14 on this council. If we don't have a plan as to how we do this, if everybody has in their mind what they think the house needs to look like, again, a person that needs a house, they not into the look that we think that they need to have. They just want somewhere to lay their head and put their belongings and their families and feel safe. The house, a $260,000 house might be a $30,000 house, tiny house, for someone who's homeless or a veteran or somebody. Again, I want us to look at what we're doing. We are somehow picking and choosing, and it's to me, no order to it. And lend that to my engineering and manufacturing. There's got to be a process, and it's got to be fair. And the community they're the ones that eventually are the customers to the product, not the city council. So I'm looking, Mr. Pate, staff, again, this is nothing personal. This is business and personal to the people we're trying to serve. Councilmember McIntosh.
So how many years ago was it we decided to inventory the lots that we owned and try to turn them back into productive use? Okay, we're operating on precedent rather than policy. Okay, we need to have a policy that says, that reduces the incidences of these kinds of conflicts, because right now it is a race to the table. Who gets the lot? Who gets to build it?
The race.
Without policy other than, well, this is what was done over here before. That's not a good way to do business. Okay, so 4 might be the right number, and I don't really have a problem with approving 4 here, but that's not a policy that was set by council. I know that I've been in discussion with the group here for a long time. I have faith in them, but you shouldn't operate just on my faith. You never do. So we really need to have a set of policies that is set in stone that we work by. And if we can get 4 houses out of this and build a relationship with folks who I feel like are going to do quality work, and we can get another 15 out of them in a fairly quick order, that goes some way towards alleviating the problem that we're all in. Garage doors are not the be-all and end-all of housing, all right? We need houses with or without garage doors. Some places that's more appropriate, but let's not just say that you have to have a garage door to get money from the city. That's not good precedent.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark and Councilmember Scipio, and we're going to start instituting some Robert's rules here. If you've spoken once for the supported of it or opposition of it, we don't need to hear anymore. I got 2 more things on the agenda. Councilmember Clark.
Just real quick, and I'm having a hard time following all the numbers. Real simple. Cost to build the house minus city subsidy, county subsidy. I'm assuming the person's going to have a mortgage. And at some point, the numbers have to balance. That would be very helpful, because I'm having a hard time following all the numbers here.
Okay, absolutely.
Councilmember Scipio.
I am so in favor of community groups coming together to achieve a phenomenal goal for our community. Sometimes with housing, and I've been very disturbed about how we as a council have given developers, known developers who do it all the time, the property we own for $1. And yet, when we have nonprofits who bring collaborations together to do similar work, but even on a smaller scale, we seem to have a problem with that. I'm thoroughly in favor of providing city property to the nonprofit led by the church. Churches are taking on that responsibility. It's a great thing for them to do. They've gotten a great developer and fine homes. They also have banking from a wonderful banking institution that's homegrown, Piedmont Federal. I believe the risks they take to do that is what we want in our community. We want our residents, our people to work together to build this city, to be a phenomenal city. I'm certainly in favor of as we move forward with this idea. I'm even in favor of starting with 4, but giving them the other so that they will always have access to the remaining lots, because these lots are going fast. There are other church groups who have no real development experience who've been thinking of doing the very same thing. So we as a council must be willing to work with the residents in this city to help develop this city, not just big developers who we subsidize all the time. And yet, for those who aren't developers, we're not giving them as much. So I would think this is information only, and I would certainly be in favor of it moving forward. And as they develop the concept, that they bring it back to us.
Anyone else that I haven't heard from, committee or council? Councilmember Burke. Councilmember Mundy.
I was just going to ask, because it seems to be topic of debate, when we get an area, I'd like to know what percentage of the houses in the immediate area have garages versus not garages. So if that's an important point, we take it into consideration. Right now, we don't know that.
Okay. Councilmember Burke.
Thank you. I'll be brief. As I have been working on council for the last 3 years, I have identified all of these vacant lots pretty much that are east of Cleveland Avenue. And I have taken many of you up on this dais on rides, as well as city managers, so that we can see these lots and see the condition of this community, and to talk about the history of this community and what it once was. And I have been working with the neighbors, the neighborhood associations, community members to revitalize this community. It is their desire that the houses be built the way I described. This is not just my dream. It is their desire. This is where they live. And I think that I have been so fortunate that the city staff members have been able to work so well with builders who are interested in building on lots that you all said nobody would want. Nobody will build a house there. Nobody wants to build a house there, and a house there won't sell. But we've been so fortunate to be able to work with builders who see the value and see the opportunity and to move forward to build. There is a plan. There is a goal for how this community will turn out. And I think that if we're going to do anything different, we need to meet with the people who live in this community, who have a desire for the vacant lots to be built with homes as I have described. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more caveat. For those that don't know, I think back in Mr. King, was it 14, 15, after that after we came back from Everyone's Home and Grounded Solutions, that we got the grant and the money to be able to actually go out and find the vacant lots block by block in the city, ward by ward. We also had people out, volunteers that were going door to door, that talked with people whose homes, and Councilmember Scipio knows, that were blight or needed repair, turn. We did that work. So we knew where all of these lots were, especially the ones that we had demoed over the past 10, 20 years. But we created that roadmap along with community volunteers right after we came back from Grounded Solutions and For Everyone's Home. And Winston was one of the 3 cities selected to be able to do that work so that we could move forward on land trust, land banking, and all of the other things that we're doing. Am I right?
Mayor Pro Tem, that's right. There's a lot of action going on at the same time. I think probably in conversations with the General Assembly to get the special legislation, we needed to do this work. That happened before I was planning director in 2018, so I remember mapping this a long time ago. The For Everyone Home project, I think that was 18, 19, maybe a little bit of 20 in there as well. So there was a lot of work kind of going on concurrently. When we got the approval from the General Assembly, we had a map book ready to go with it. So yes, this has taken a long time, and there's been a lot of work running concurrently around it.
Thank you. What is your pleasure? This is a presentation, okay? City Attorney, the information on the Map and Prejudice project, I apologize, because we're not going to be able to get that in today. Where is Dr. Smith? Where are you? Come on up, sir, please. Well, I want to get him because the city attorney has already agreed to move hers.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the good doctor if we can move you to next month, and we put you at the top of the agenda.
I believe.
That sounds like a good deal.
I don't think I have a choice, so of course, I mean.
But I wanted the presentation to get the respect that it needs to be given, because that's just as important as redlining and where we're building houses and what is happening or is happening in our community. And could you give your name and what institution you're representing?
Definitely. Russ Smith, professor of geography and the faculty lead for the Spatial Justice Studio at Winston-Salem State University.
Thank you so much. The staff will be in touch with you for next month.
Thank you.
All right, next item, City Clerk.
Item G15, consideration of items related to city contributions to Shotgun House Legacy Project located in the East Ward.
Mr. Rao, go right ahead.
Good evening, Chairwoman Adams, members of City Council. In November 2022, the City Council authorized the sale of 2 shotgun houses on Humphrey Street to Triad Cultural Arts for $1. At the time, the plan was to rehabilitate both structures as a museum space and a welcome center. Then in April 2023, Tricultural Arts staff approached council about revising that scope where they would rehabilitate one of the houses, the one located on 716 Humphrey Street, and then repurpose it into a building for programming and community activities, and then repurpose the materials in the 726 Humphrey Street property to help build a new welcome center. Since that time, they have engaged in the design process. Right now, the estimated cost of the project is $241,000. I know the item here is noted $194, but I received updated cost estimates. Tricultural Arts has been reaching out and pursuing grant funding for this project, including funds from the Winston-Salem Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, the North Carolina Humanities Council, and even individual donations. They're also in the process of pursuing grants from the North Carolina Arts Council, the Twin City Development Foundation, and Covington Foundation. In January of 2018, so even before the city sold the property, city management at the time made a commitment to move those houses into Happy Hill Park, which was one of our major bond projects. It was a $70,000 commitment. Tricultural Arts is now asking that we repurpose those funds for this current project and under the revised scope, rehabilitating one of the houses and then repurposing the materials for the second house for the development of a welcome center. So the item before you this evening is a resolution that would authorize the contribution of that $70,000 towards the new scope for the Shotgun House Legacy Project. Under that resolution, the city's funding would be the last funding in the project, so Tricultural Arts would have to demonstrate that they have raised all the funds, all the other funds for the project, for the construction of this project. The city's contribution would come from Oxby tax fund reserves. At the end of fiscal year 23, we had about $600,000 in reserves. So those funds will be appropriated from that, and we have the authority to do that under state statute where a municipality can contribute towards the development of a museum. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilman Clark.
What's the square footage of the house, and do you have a floor plan?
So I failed to introduce Cheryl Harry and Abria Armstrong, who are with Tricultural Arts, and they're here to answer any specific questions you may have about the project, and we can provide that additional information.
Ms. Harry. Oh, both of y'all short. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I don't usually see people shorter than me.
That's your sister.
But good evening, Council. I am Abria Armstrong, Executive Director for Tricultural Arts, 51 East 4th Street.
Cheryl Harry, Program Manager for Tricultural Arts.
To Councilmember Clark, you want to?
The square footage of the house and the floor plan.
The square footage is just a little over 700 square feet.
Okay.
And so this is where the use of new media is going to be very critical. We recognize that we can't necessarily have traditional exhibitions in the space, considering our spatial limitations. So this is where things like projectors and screens, and we're certainly in strong discussion with School of the Arts, Emerging Media and Technology Lab, in order to put those exhibits together, considering the space constraints.
Because I'm assuming the floor plan is going to be similar to where it looked originally.
Precisely.
So my question is, to use it as a community center, don't you have to walk from one room through the next room through the next room?
There are two properties, 716 will be restored to its integrity, to its time period. You will be able to, that is the museum. The Welcome Center will be built afterwards. That's on the 2025 plan.
Adjacent to that?
Correct. Yes.
But the 241 cost is for the whole thing or just to rehab the house?
That's for the rehab, the construction of the 716 property.
Okay, thank you. If I could just get a floor plan at your convenience.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
I'm curious what the ongoing maintenance and operating costs, how that will be funded.
So we're very grateful to be launching a capital campaign this year. We're currently in the feasibility study phase of that, hoping to launch the quiet phase come Theater Festival and beyond, so Q3, Q4. We're also grateful to have our African American Heritage Collective, which is the body underneath Tricultural Arts, in which we actually produce the educational programming. So right now, we are the only group in the city organization in the city doing Black Heritage Tours. And so even with our Black Heritage Tours, we've already exceeded our earned income expectations for that line. And so we're very excited about the economic development aspect of this house because we've got the infrastructure, right? We're already bringing people together to talk about Black heritage. And so now it's a matter of having a sort of central place to house them and to bring them rather. And then also the opportunity to do things like merchandise and have memberships. And so we're very grateful that our sustainability model includes various streams of revenue and doesn't solely rely on, for example, municipal or grants.
I'm very glad to hear that because we have a tendency on council to like to buy new things and then not maintain them. So looking to this body for future funding for maintenance and operating income would not be a good idea.
Understood.
Councilmember Scipio.
Please share with us your vision for using this facility during the National Black Theater Festival.
As you may or may not know, Tricultural Arts is the official tour agency for Theater Festival. We've been doing that for the past 4 theater festivals. So we will provide tours. The Shotgun House will now be one of our sort of major destinations on the tour. We have used, we use the trolley and take people through the city on tours. With that destination point at one time, or the last ones, Carolina Vineyards and Hops, where we did an official wine tasting, and also we landed there for lunch as well. That was a desire of the late, great Sylvia Sprinkle Hamlin, that be sort of the a major form of the tour. But now we have spoken with the director, can't think of his name right now, and we will be, Jackie, thank you.
Jackie Alexander.
Thank you. We will be expanding those tours, and the Shotgun House project will be a part of that. We know that it may not be totally complete at that time. However, our plan is to have an outside exhibit if we cannot walk people through the house. And we just met on that today, what those panels would look like. The information that we're collecting and researching for that outside exhibit will be used for the inside exhibit. Did I mention the fish fry? Just kidding.
Councilmember Scipio.
One of the things that's really important to understand is that Triad Cultural Arts, and many of you know about them, have been here a long time. This vision of these shotgun houses has been a vision for a very long time. And where we're evolving to now on this particular site and eventually the Welcome Center will be an outstanding economic development tool for this city that will be able to celebrate our African-American history in this site on the land of Happy Hill, which was the first neighborhood designed for African-American homeowners. And so much has happened on that land, and it's very wonderful that this is going to be at this particular location. I'm thoroughly in favor of using these funds that were originally designed to relocate these houses, but for those of you who may not know, the relocation was not feasible because where it was going to be located to was by the Brothers Spring down at the park. Yeah. And when we were reconstructing the park down there, we had a severe water problem. So we certainly did not want to put the houses there to be in a flood zone and having a spring flood the house. So having it here in the original location is just a wonderful blessing on that beautiful hill that overlooks the city. It's probably the most picturesque part of Happy Hill in that location. I am definitely in favor of this.
Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve this allocation.
Second.
Councilmember Clark, second. You have a comment?
I do have a comment.
Councilmember Larson.
I'll make it short. You know that I spent a lot of years at Old Salem. At times I compared Old Salem's buildings to this building. It was first identified in part by Mel White in an exhibit that he prepared for St. Philip's Church when the restoration of that building, when he made architectural models of all the architectural important buildings for African-American history that had been identified at that point. This was about year 2000, two decades ago. This building has sat empty for that long, and I applaud Tri-Arts for persevering to preserve what I think is one of the most remarkable buildings of African-American history in the city of North Carolina. We used to have many of these. Unfortunately, we're down to just a handful now. And this one, particularly in its original location, is a very valuable. The idea originally was to move it, and that would have, in fact, removed the context in which it originally sat. So I applaud you for what you're doing. I support this 100% and wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you, Councilmember Larson. Ms. Harry knows that when I got on the council in 2009, I think it was just a matter of a couple of months before she called me up. And she was interested in the shotgun houses in Happy Hill and also the cottage houses on Thurman, the cottages. I basically told her, I said, just go do whatever it is you do. But when she laid out the history of the cottages, which I lived on Gillette in the 1950s up until 60, there were lots of them on Thurman at the time, but not anymore. And I'm hoping that your organization will do something further to fix that. When I was born in 1954, my parents lived on Southbound. And Southbound Street was the street across from the bridges, the crossing arches in Winston-Salem State. It was really under the railroad trestle. That was Southbound. And there were lots of houses all the way up to Happy Hill, Columbia Terrace, Skyline, all of that. and Vagre. So we lived there until 1958. So I commend you all for bringing back the history of the neighborhood and what is important to our culture and heritage. As you know, I've been a supporter since day one, and I will continue to be a supporter because it is important that people know that we were here also then, and we're still here now, and we are part of the fiber of the city. With that motion, all those in favor?
I voted.
What? I have a motion, no.
Voted.
It's approved, all right.
Yeah,
then,
it
good
went
enough.
through.
Any other comments or before we end the meeting? No? Good luck, we look forward to working with you. This meeting is now adjourned, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for indulging our time in this long agenda.